to do a bit of a quick live because I was sitting here making a video and I was like, okay, it's going to be easier to do this on a live. So what I wanted to do was I wanted to make a video about some of the big astro movements that we have coming up in the next short while. And I wanted to do this because it, like, really, the astrology doesn't matter. You don't need to know it. But the reason I'm sharing it with you is because you're going to feel these shifts. You're going to feel these challenges. You're going to feel these motivations, and you're going to feel these energies, and you're going to be like, fuck my life. You're going to be wondering what the fuck is going on. Okay. And I just wanted to show you astrologically how this actually works. So here we go. So basically, one of the first things that we have happening very shortly is Saturn, the planet Saturn, is moving into Pisces. What does that mean? Saturn is, I consider Saturn the kind of cranky old granddaddy of all the planets, because he's a little bit like, if you haven't done your homework, you can't go out and play. If you've done your homework, you can go out and play, but not a minute past 6 o'clock, right? So Saturn is all about boundaries, restrictions, rules, authorities. Saturn is about hard work. It's about karma. It's about long-term goals and working towards those long-term goals. It is, it's where we learn our biggest life lessons, and it tends to feel restrictive in some way, shape or form. Excuse me. So I've had Saturn going through my fourth house. My fourth house is all to do with home and family and your ancestry and property and all that kind of stuff. And like for the last couple of years, while Saturn was going through my fourth house, like we were locked down for most of that time. So there's like a physical, like, Saturn restricting your movements. Okay. So essentially what I'm saying is Saturn brings about karma and has a tendency to, like, if you put in the hard work, you get rewards, but only what you've worked for. And if you haven't put in the hard work, you get your ass kicked a little bit, right? So Saturn is moving into Pisces on the 7th of March. Pisces. What is Pisces? Pisces is the last sign of the zodiac. Pisces is connected to spirituality. It's connected to creativity, that oneness, the kind of feeling of like having no boundaries. Or if you can imagine, Pisces is a water sign. It's mutable, it's changeable. Water has no boundaries. Like it has boundaries, but they're very flexible and movable. Think about the sea and the tide coming in and out. Because Pisces is connected to the sea, it's also connected to oil and petrol and fossil fuels. I'll come back to that in a minute because that's going to be interesting. It's also related to pharmaceuticals and toxins. So I'll come back to that later too. And just remember these when we're thinking about restrictions or karmic rebalancing. Okay, so we'll come back to that in a moment. But Pisces is also about our spirituality and our creativity. You know, there's so many more things I want to say, but I kind of don't want to drag this out too much. But basically with Saturn moving into Pisces, we may or may not, because I had this conversation with somebody yesterday and I was like, oh my God, that's because of Saturn moving into Pisces. Here in Ireland, and I know around the world that this might end up being the case, use your words, Deborah, the fuel industries, you know, where you're getting your electricity and your gas and everything from, those people who are using crude oil, petrol companies, the whole lot. A lot of these companies have not been paying big taxes like they should be. And there's going to be a clamp down on that. So there's your Pisces, there's your fossil fuels and your oils. And then there's Saturn clamping down and rebalancing the karma. Okay. Also, it also might mean a restriction of fuels. So I don't know, that could be like a worldwide thing as well. Again, here in Ireland, I don't know what it's like for other people around the world. There's been a shortage of products that you can buy in your pharmacy and drugs and all that kind of stuff. There's been lots of shortages of getting those drugs in. So there, once again, you've got Pisces rules, pharmaceuticals and toxins and stuff on drugs. And you've got Saturn causing restrictions. So there's some very basic, mundane, ordinary examples of how Saturn can display itself. Will that continue? I don't know, but I would imagine that we're getting a taste of what's coming. So that's to me, if we were to move into alignment, because that's what Saturn wants to do. Saturn is not doing these things to us to like, you've been a bad human, you're going to pay for this. It's not about that. It's like Saturn is trying to actually move us all into alignment for what's our greatest good and our highest joy. It's trying to push you back into alignment, and it's not always comfortable, you know. So that would say to me that if you're restricted in your pharmaceuticals and you can't buy your drugs, what you would do is you would start looking at natural and alternative herbal and traditional remedies. That's like logic sense to me. So I'm quite curious to see how that displays itself, because I have a feeling that might be where things go. And then when we look at the petrol industry and the gas and electricity, we've had huge issues with that here. That's like karma coming to bite these feckers in the backside and going like, no, you can't pocket all that money, you have to pass it on to the people. So that's going to be interesting to watch. So that's on a kind of a worldwide scale. What can we see in our own lives and experience in our own lives that might be kind of to do with these themes? So personally, I have Saturn going into Pisces in my 5th house of creativity. And it's crazy because recently I just decided that I was going to do this 12-week program that you've heard me talking about on my other posts. So from Sunday, I'm doing like a 12-week program, and it's Julia Cameron's The Artist's Way book. And for me, like Saturn going into Pisces, Saturn is structure, okay? And Pisces is creativity. So there's a 12-week challenge based around structure and creativity. And I'm like, oh my God, of course it is, you know? So it's hilarious. So that's why I know for me, it's just the perfect time to do it. But what you might find is, depending on where Pisces is in your birth chart, and what I mean by that is if you look up your natal chart, and if you want, just send me details and I can do this for you, or send you in the right direction. If you look up your birth chart and see where the sign of Pisces is, see what house it's in. If it's the 1st house, you're going to have changes to yourself. You're going to have changes to your character. If it's in the 2nd house, you might have changes to your finances, you know. If it is in your 3rd house, could be to do with communication, your neighbours, your siblings. If it's a 4th house, it'd be to do with home, or and I mean, this could be rebalancing of karmic 2 delays in all this kind of area. 4th house is all to do with home. 5th house is to creativity, sex, children. 6th house is to do with your day-to-day work routine, your health, and all that kind of side of things. And then 7th house is relationships, marriage relationships, one-to-one partnerships, and close relationships. The 8th house is to do with debt, taxes, death. It's to do with other people's finances. It's to do with things that are hidden in terms of like taboo kind of occult practices and taboo subjects, and sex and intimacy more so. And then the 9th house is to do with religion, philosophy, teaching, publishing, travel, long distance travel. 10th house is to do with career, vocation, your public reputation. 11th house to do with friends, groups of people who are like-minded, organizations, the internet, social media, your hopes and wishes fulfilled. And then 12th house tends to be about your kind of undoing. So the house that is more subconscious, it's very hard to access it so kind of openly. It's another hidden house. So it can be to do with institutions, it can be to do with mental health issues, it can be to do with how you escape and how you go to recharge your batteries. It's the collective. So you can see each house in astrology has its own area of life that it represents. So what I'm saying is, where Pisces is in your birth chart is the area of life that you're going to feel the most change and challenge to. So rather than kind of being subjective to this and being like, oh my God, what's going on? Be prepared and know what it is that's coming up that you're going to have to work hard on. You know, you might have restrictions to some of these areas. You might have to work harder than normal. You might have to, and a lot of this is because unconsciously we have a desire to be in alignment in a particular way. As humans, consciously, we're like, we think we know it all. We don't know it all. And we are manifesting from our inside out all the time. So what you're seeing in your external environment is literally a reflection of what's going on the inside, and it's what it is that you truly want on the inside. So what I would say is, I would really take time to sit down, get really clear on what is it that you really want? What is it that you want to manifest? Saturn in Pisces wants to manifest, because Saturn wants to Saturn wants to put boundaries on things, and Pisces does not want any boundaries. It's boundaryless. But because Pisces is to do with the imagination and creativity, and Saturn is how we make things real and we ground them in, it's like Saturn in Pisces is going to be massive for manifesting. And you want to use this next 2.5 years to really get into that energy. It's going to take you some time to feel it and then start using it. But if you put the work in, Saturn is all about rewarding you if you put the work in. If you put the work in now, you will be rewarded when it comes out of Pisces and moves on into the next sign. So there's a lot of work to be done. You know, I definitely can feel, for me, Saturn in Pisces, and I can feel it so strongly. I can feel that I am being faced with going back into my creativity. For me, and I don't know whether I've spoken much about this before, but I'm going to do it now. I'm facing my fears. Saturn also represents our fears. For me, I would have struggled a lot through my early years not wanting to be here, if I'm really honest with you. I'm sorry if this is triggering. Turn it off if it's triggering. I didn't want to be here. I really didn't, because I found here really thick, heavy, dense, emotionally sludgy. I found the energy of this life to be just really hard and really heavy to navigate. And I just wanted out so many times. I wanted to go home back to the eternal bliss of wherever it is that I came from. And for me as a kid, I love my dad to pieces. He's gone now, but my dad was an angry man when we were kids. And for me to escape the toxic moods, the toxic emotions, and I was unable to express my anger because he was busy expressing his anger. And so my anger would have turned inverted, would have like imploded basically. And how I expressed my anger, my grief, my frustration, was through writing and writing poetry and through art. And it's so interesting because over the last number of years, I know this is a total side note, but just bear with me. Over the last couple of years, I have had these pokes to go back to the creativity that I used to have. And it's been really uncomfortable because I haven't been able to tap into it. I've tried desperately, pathetically, but it's actually not come naturally to me the way it used to be. And I can feel Saturn bringing me, like pulling and dragging me back into alignment to make me face my fears, which is Saturn, which don't feel like fears to me because I thought I dealt with them, but I can feel it. It's turning me around to go back to where it was that I used to create from. And where I used to create from was an intense place of fear and anger and frustration. It was like very much the dark feminine, but it was a dark wounded feminine. And I can totally feel like Saturn is like, right, now we're going to go face your fears and we'll bring you into to reconnect with your creativity. You have to face these fears. So there's Saturn and Pisces once again by itself. So I'm just showing you how it's kind of showing up in my life. Now I have Saturn's also squaring my ascendant. That's a whole other conversation. So I've got a lot of changes coming up over the next year, but I can feel it pushing at me. So that is one of the first things that's happening. I'm sure you're like, oh my God, get me out of here. So it's like, what I'm saying is not to panic. Yes, it's you know, it could be an uncomfortable transit for some people, especially if you've got placements, astrological placements in that house or in and around to Pisces, to Saturn and Pisces. And it may be, and you may be thinking like, my life is a fucking struggle enough already, let alone more. These transits will be so much easier if you can go into it surrendering and knowing that whatever discomfort you're being faced with is ultimately aligning you and pushing you back into alignment with actually what it is your soul wants. You may not know it, but your soul knows what you want. You came here and your soul already knows what you're doing here. It knows what you want. It knows what you need. It's us as humans battling against that sometimes is what causes the problem. So doing the work, diving deep, really uncovering who you are and getting to know what it is that you're here, your purpose, your mission, trying to get into alignment is going to be really helpful. For those of you who are new to my channel, I offer 1 hour and 2 hour astrological holistic astrology readings. And what we do is we look at who you are, who you're not, what you're meant to be doing with your life, your soul purpose, your life mission, your strengths, your talents, your weaknesses. So if you want to know more, and if you want to know what, what's going on at the moment, how it's affecting you, then you can book in on a session. Just drop me a DM. I also do Reiki. So for those who are going to be struggling during these transits, Reiki is going to be amazing for helping you come back into your body and to clear up your energy so that you can intuitively feel, what is my next step? How do I process this? How do I go through this? Reiki is amazing at raising your consciousness and helping you to move out of the 3D and more into a higher alignment with your soul purpose. So these are things I do. And then I do mentoring as well to be able to teach you tools on how to navigate all of this. So move it on, Deborah. And the other thing I want to talk just quickly about, because I need to go now in a minute, but I just wanted to talk about Pluto moving from Capricorn into Aquarius. Those of you who have been down the rabbit hole will understand some of this, and those who haven't won't understand some of this, but I will hopefully not speak in too many riddles. Pluto moves out of Capricorn into Aquarius at the end of March. What does that mean, Deborah? Pluto is life, death, rebirth, transformation, burn it to the ground, start again. It is about our unconscious, subconscious desires, and it's about empowerment versus disempowerment. It's currently in the last degree of Capricorn, which is where it expresses itself most drastically. Why? Because the work that Pluto didn't get to do in the whole sign of Capricorn in its last degree, it needs to do that work, and it will do it, rip the band-aid off. And it tends to be a lot more intense, basically. So what is Capricorn? Capricorn is about it's all those Saturn themes are very connected to Capricorn. So Capricorn is financial institutions, governments, structures and bodies that are like big organizations and structures. It is our systems, even our government systems. Capricorn, again, it's all to do with hard work. But if you can imagine Pluto, life, death, rebirth, transformation, also the planet of uncovering secrets, is going through the last few degrees in Capricorn. What does that mean? It means that anything which is not serving our collective in a purposeful, meaningful way that's helping us to feel empowered is going to be ripped down and burnt to the ground, basically, metaphorically. So we're going to see the dissolution, if that's the right word, of financial systems, like the banking system. We can see it already. That's already changing. That is going to change. Our government structures, they're all going to change. Now, this has been going on for a long time, except that now it's becoming more obvious because Pluto is in the last couple of degrees, or in the last degree of Capricorn. It will move into Aquarius next month, and then it's going to go back, and then it'll go back. It kind of goes forward and backwards, and then moves on. But ultimately what I'm saying is the last time Pluto was in the sign of Capricorn going into Aquarius, and when it moved into Aquarius, it does this every almost 300 years. When we go back through history, what we can see are massive revolutions, rebellions, and we can see a lot of essentially people fighting for the power to be distributed more evenly. So that's the breaking down of old structures. And then Pluto moves into Aquarius, and Aquarius is all about power to the people, community, collaboration. It's humanitarianism. It's all about science and technology. It's about innovation. It's about awakening. Aquarius is very, very quick and very futuristic in its energy. So when we've Pluto moving into the sign of Aquarius, we're going to be looking at a lot of very quick and very big changes around technology and science, AI. We can see that already. But we're also going to be looking at communities, new communities sprouting up all over the place that are taking the power and distributing it to the people. This is already, for anybody who's been doing a lot more conscious work or who's a lot more awakened to what's behind the veil, basically, if you've done your work, you'll know what I'm talking about, and you'll actually already see, if you're in the alternative kind of world, you'll already see grassroots projects springing up. There are healthcare projects springing up parallel to the mainstream system. There are we've had crypto and banking and all that kind of sprouting up as well. There's lots of parallel communities that are actually springing up already. It's just that the mainstream can't see them. And what we're going to start seeing is the old world and these old structures breaking down, and these new grassroots projects coming up to be more visible for people to see. And it's really beautiful because we're moving into really, really interesting times, but it can be scary. So you need to be choosing what it is that you want to manifest, right? Because you can choose to go with technology that is not serving humanity, or you can choose to use technology which is serving humanity. So a whole other session by itself as well. But essentially, Pluto moving into Aquarius in March is fucking huge. It's huge, and it's going to be there for 30 years. So we're going to see massive shifts, massive changes. Again, depending on where Aquarius is in your house, in your astrology, will depend on where you're going to see these big shifts happening. So again, if you're interested in learning more, just drop me a message and book a session in with me. I will be talking more about this as we go along, but I just wanted to kind of give a flavour as to what this is all about, because I have a lot of people saying to me like, oh yeah, I know, you keep hearing Saturn's moving into Pisces, what does that mean? And I keep hearing that Pluto is going into Aquarius, and what does that mean? It means there's big ass shifts coming down the way. And it's going to happen quickly. It's actually been happening for a long time. It's just now it's going to feel a bit quicker because now it's going to be more obvious than anything else. And as I said, really the best thing that you can do is do the work, dig down, do the work, get to know who you are, get to know why you're here. Raise and elevate your consciousness to a point that you can really see the world for what it is as best you can. And go into it with surrender rather than kicking and screaming. The more you resist, like go with the flow to as much as an extent as you can, but the more you resist, the more struggle you're going to feel, and the harder it's going to be, and the more it's going to affect your mental health, you know, your emotions, your mental health, your stability. It's not something to be feared. Fear is going to exacerbate everything. It's not, we only fear what we don't know. But if you make yourself more conscious and you do your research and you do the work, then you have less to fear because now you know more. So as I said, if you want to work with me throughout this process, I do Reiki, I do astrology, and I do mentoring as well. All of these actually very often combined together are just like magic. It's a beautiful, transformative journey. So I hope that you've enjoyed this. I hope these nuggets are interesting. Let me know what you thought of the information. Is it convoluted? Do you understand it? Are you more confused than you were before? Do you feel more comfort knowing what's coming up down the line? Let me know where you're at, and I shall talk to you all soon. Bye.